So you really take me to my next question, which was exactly about the ADA. Obviously, your work goes beyond ADA compliance. Take us that step further. What extra bits, what extra features have you learned to add that really make a difference for the deaf experience in the buildings you're looking at and designing?
Yes. I was born a child of the ADA. And so the ADA had a huge impact on my life. At the same time, I believe that my generation currently is starting to demand more from the ADA. The ADA is interesting in that it created an approach that was based on what is the minimum we can do. I want to kind of reframe this and create a new framework on what is the maximum that we can create that will allow people to thrive and maximize every person's potential. This is really where I want to look at is how architecture and design can reframe from a scarcity mindset to more a mindset of abundance. With that in mind, a lot of my work dives into how we create space for the deaf experience. And expanding upon that, there's the sensory experience of deaf and hard of hearing people, of course, but there's a culture experience as well of those who are deaf and hard of hearing. How do we create space that connects to cultural remembrance of those who are deaf in the deaf community? So, for example, how we then capitalize on design as a tool to uplift the fact that our community is not a monolith, but is very intersectional in its individuals, in its community experience, in its overlapping layers. Our community is really this is a foundational piece, and it's part of this larger narrative and shift that we're seeing around disability rights and framing this to disability justice on what we are pursuing at this time. It's, the idea of a school being built, for example, is this beautiful state-run civic architecture that's providing access to deaf and hard of hearing students, to access public education. Isn't necessarily mean that there's disability justice if the school isn't designed with a sensory experience of people and users in mind, or the cultural narratives of those individuals in mind. So that's really where we're starting to see this reframe and this shift. So, we see this, as a for instance, deaf schools that were designed with a classroom that was set with, many classrooms side by side. However, if, for example, the lighting wasn't right in a particular room, and it really isn't, disability justice at that point. We oftentimes will see with the deaf community on how school design and how design of our public spaces intersect and overlap with other institutions like hospitals, with the idea of with prisons, and the ideas that how the design of our institutions and campuses promotes a system of oppression as it has been. At the same time, architectural design can also promote a system of inspiration and joy. And then this is how we want to root this into our design language. It's one of the most powerful abilities of architecture and design.